treaties form this country. That's how we had the railway go across Canada. Treaties had to be signed with Indigenous people in order to move into areas, in order to clear the way so settlers could come and the entire country of Canada could exist. But those treaties were one-sided. Those treaties were signed in good faith by Indigenous people who had no background in British law, didn't know about the Crown, didn't know how to speak English most of the time. They were advised by the churches on, usually it was a priest or someone who would be a translator and say, okay, this is what this means. But the treaties were never respected. You have a total imbalance of power, like people who have a complete difference in understanding too. And you have colonial law coming in. Think of social Darwinism too. At this point, people are coming across, they've got the papal bulls, terra nullius. We're here, we're claiming this land of Canada, but there were already people here. It wasn't the same though as what was in Europe, right? And so people come over and they've got a style of government, a parliamentarian style of government. Everything is top down. We have armies, we have all of these things. We have ships, so we must be better than you. And we have land and we own things. And so they come here, they make these treaties to get all of these things, but there was a fundamental disconnect too between the people themselves. Indigenous people don't think this way. There wasn't a chief here that was making all the decisions this way. That actually was imposed by the Indian Act, which is a piece of legislation that came with the treaties that was made in 1876. So Indigenous people see it like this. Everyone's part of a continuum, is part of a circle. Nobody is in charge making rules like this. You almost have a fundamental disconnect between people too, right? You do. When the settlers came and the colonials, what the Indigenous people are here, and they're trying to sort of even sit and talk about what is a treaty. Whose responsibility is it? Oh, so you're going to take care of us, or you're going to help us through certain areas? So the true nature of treaties wasn't taught in schools. The true nature of Indian residential schools was never taught too. You probably didn't learn about residential schools in class. No, nobody did, right? Why was that? How come nobody knew that 150,000 children were taken away from their families, their culture, their language, everything they know, and tried to assimilate into Canadian society? And if you know the history of those schools, what happened, at least 6,000 children have died. There are so many that are unaccounted for. The rates of disease, hunger, malnutrition, sexual abuse in those schools were just like off the charts. So you create this system of broken people too. And these people leave, the survivors, and they go back up to the res. And why are they living in reses? Because the treaties took the land and said, okay, you get this little part here. And so everyone goes back. There's no health care there. There are no mental health care providers. There are no treatment facilities. There's no water. There's no employment. And so you have all these residential school survivors leaving, broken people, put in reserves, and there's nothing there to catch them. What is there to catch them? The justice system, the prison system. The 60s scoop happens. 1951, laws were changed, federal law changed, so it made it easier for the provinces to look after children and to take children away from their families. There's a lot that needs to happen in order to get to the point where you can say there's equity in this country, for sure.